Sheriff Dowdell. Welcome. It's great to see you all here. We're so happy to be here with so many distinguished guests, family, and friends to celebrate our friend and colleague, Justice Molter, and his robing ceremony. We just got back from the Senate. The Senate is packed. I don't know what's going on in Newton County today, but I'm gathering that there's not much. So if you're represented by somebody at Ice Miller, or you happen to want some justice in Newton County, good luck. I'd like to first start off by introducing my colleagues on the bench, and we have a lot of tradition. The newest justice sits right here, and then the longest serving justice sits here. So I'd like to introduce Justice Mark Massa, Justice Jeffrey Slaughter, and just when you see him later, it is his birthday today. I don't know if you knew that. You're kind of usurping a little. And Christopher Goff. All of us here on the Indiana Supreme Court. Justice Molter will introduce his family, and there's a lot of family here today, but I'd like to take a chance to welcome his wife, Katie. Katie, thank you for coming. And his children, who I'm getting to know and enjoying quite a bit. Samuel will meet later and talk about chicken night. We've got Michael, Samuel, and Mallory. Kids, thank you for coming today as well. We have a lot of our colleagues from the Court of Appeals. We have Chief Judge Cale Bradford, and I just want to take a minute to thank Judge Bradford. He's been Chief Judge for the last 3 years, and he's just had tremendous leadership. Can't thank you enough for the work you've done. Patricia Riley is here, Judge Riley, Judge Bailey, Judge Melissa May, Judge Margaret Robb, Judge Nancy Vadic, Judge Paul Mathias, Judge Robert Altice, Judge Leanna Weissman, and a new welcome to our newest judge on the Indiana Court of Appeals, Pete Foley. Welcome. We are federal court friends. James Ayler, Judge Ayler, where are the federal courts? To see you again. He was once on the state court bench, and very happy that Justice Molter's with us, and the federal court did not get him. That was a big save for us. We've got James Ayler, we've got Judge Kelly Barr, Judge Teresa Springman, and Judge James Sweeney. Welcome our colleagues from the federal bench. We've got our friends and former colleagues on the Indiana Supreme Court, from the Indiana Supreme Court. We have Justice Stephen David. There you are. Good to see you again. Former Chief Justice Brent Dixon, Justice Frank Sullivan, who's now teaching 4 classes, I just heard. I don't know how you do this, but we're so proud of you. We have former Chief Justice Randall Shepard, who still takes my calls. Thank you, Chief Justice Shepard, and former Justice Myra Selvey. Welcome. We're also joined by many distinguished state elected and appointed officials from the executive, legislative branch, including our own Governor Holcomb. Welcome, Governor Holcomb. Treasurer Kelly Mitchell. Welcome, Treasurer Mitchell. Attorney General Todd Rokita. Welcome, Attorney General Rokita. Senator Eric Cook. Welcome, Senator Cook. Senator Brian Buchanan. Welcome, Senator Buchanan. Representative Jerry Torr. Welcome, Representative Torr. And I saw Senator Aaron Freeman. I believe he's with us as well today. I'd like to recognize the members of the Judicial Nominating Commission, both past and present, who are with us. We have a system of selecting our appellate judges in Indiana, which requires citizen members and attorneys to spend hundreds of hours to provide the 3 best possible candidates to the governor. And I get to see firsthand the unbelievable work they do. So I'd like to recognize Katie Glick. Is Katie here today? And Katie, I want to thank you. She's just finished serving 3 spectacular years on the commission. We appreciate that. Tony Patterson, Danny Lopez, Holly Wolchak, Rudy Yacom, who just went off. Good luck in all your future endeavors, Rudy Yacom. We also have John Tremble and Lee Christie here. So thank you for the work that you do on the Indiana Judicial Nominating Commission. From the governor's staff, we have the wonderful team that works with Joe Herron, Sharon Jackson, and Michael Nassett. Thank you for your work. Could you all please, I just stated your name, could you all please stand and be recognized so we can give you a round of applause? I'd like to introduce, we're going to have pledge leaders, and we're asking them to come forward, and I'm pleased to announce the pledge leaders today, and they're Justice Molter's children, nieces, and nephews, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So can we have Michael Samuel and Mallory Molter, Tatum, Tess, Taryn, and Preston McCauley, and Macaulay Essep. we all stand? Ready? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well done, thank you.
Beautiful.
I'm going to ask the Court of Appeals Judge, Chief Judge Bradford, come forward, and I will tell you, I understood you tried to file a mark transfer denied petition when you heard that the governor had appointed him to the bench. We know you'll miss him. Chief Judge Bradford.
Well, thank you, and good afternoon to all of you on this just wonderful day. And it's my honor just to be the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, but it's a greater honor to be here today speaking on behalf of all the judges of the Court of Appeals in Indiana and celebrating our former colleague, Justice Derek R. Molter, in his distinguished new role as a Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court. Justice Molter joined the bench of the Court of Appeals on October 1st, 2021, but as throughout his career, he's been called upon and been willing to serve at an even higher capacity. We love seeing him succeed and know he will serve, as our other Supreme Court justices do, with honor and distinction, but we will miss him. Justice Molter's departure is, I guess, what I'd call bittersweet for our court, but such a wonderful thing for our state. So today, we, the judges, would like to take this opportunity to let you all know how terrific it is to work with Justice Molter. Here are some of the perspectives from his former colleagues on the Court of Appeals. He's a big picture thinking individual with a focus on the details. Last spring, he helped our court develop the picture of its first court-wide training and education for all judges and staff on the issues and education of diversity, equity, and inclusion. He understands his role in giving back to the community. During the year that he was with our court, he and Judge Weissman organized a diaper bag drive for Afghan refugee pregnant mothers here in the United States. As a leader in our profession, he recently organized an Indiana constitutional law seminar and dinner for the Indiana appellate judges in conjunction with the Indiana State Bar Association. He sees how all parts weave together to form the whole. He is congenial and collaborative and versatile. He is humorous and easygoing. One of the stories that was told to me is someone asked Justice Molter once if he was an Eagle Scout, and his reply was, "No, but I can see why you would think that." He helps to build consensus, a judge after my own heart. He puts people at ease, and he is humble. Justice Molter he's strength under control. Of most importance, he is a devoted husband, father, and family man. And critically important to one of his former colleagues, he and his wife own a boat. Amongst the people who are most up close and personal in working with the judge and knows their nature are the judge's chamber staff. Justice Molter's chamber staff at the Court of Appeals summarized working with him as one of the most positive experiences that can be described. They enjoy his jovial and upbeat nature, his team spirit, attitude, and his deep commitment to his work. Justice Molter's door was always open at our court in every sense of the word. His staff knew they could brainstorm with him and bounce ideas around just as easily as they could share about their personal lives. He deeply cared for his team insisting on regular birthday lunches and outings, visits to professional associations, and follow-up phone calls on illnesses to pets and loved ones. Justice Molter's team also describes him as an insanely hard worker, always the first to arrive and the last to leave. He is passionate about legal writing and loves to get into the details. One of the things Justice Molter's team most liked about him was his balance. While he was extremely energetic and engaged with his work, and the youngest judge on our court at that time, he possessed a certain calmness and wisdom that his team admired. They described him as bright and capable, but also just as an old soul. Steady and driven, he earned their respect, their admiration, and their care. This kind of balance of character, wisdom, energy, lightheartedness, and deep commitment is what you, your honors, and you, the people of Indiana, will get to experience with Justice Molter on the bench. He will dig into the details and see the big picture. He will build and maintain teams where everyone feels valued and appreciated. He will make our Supreme Court continue to make good law. In short, he will make you proud. And so, we, the judges of our court, are excited to celebrate Justice Molter as he brings his tremendous legal skills, leadership, and character to the Supreme Court of Indiana. So, Justice Molter, from all of us to you and your family, congratulations.
Thank you, Chief Judge Bradford. I'd like to introduce at this time Governor Holcomb, and just as including the introduction, how many judges have you appointed now? 79. So how many judges on the Court of Appeals? Another one coming? And 2 justices on the Indiana Supreme Court. So I don't know if a governor has appointed more judges than you have done, but I will tell you the amount of time that Governor Holcomb and his team spend on this judiciary to make sure we have the strongest possible judiciary is amazing, and for that we give you great thanks. So, Governor Holcomb.
Thank you, Madam Chief Justice and justices, judges, family, and friends, distinguished guests, one and all. I have indeed become very fond of days like today, albeit as many or as few as depending on your perspective and point of view as they may be. I always come in with a swelling sense of pride, and once our official business concludes and our cause completed, I leave here reassured knowing our state is, in fact, in good hands with the brightest minds serving. Justice David, saying thank you will never be enough for the true model of service that you have built here over the years. You brought to the citizens who enter into this awesome kind of last stop room of fairness. And I just want you to know that your wisdom and your wit and your desire to connect with citizens, maybe outside this room in the hallways, amongst the beautiful architecture, maybe to give directions, maybe to greet a 4th grader to inquire about what they're learning, or maybe to learn yourself, you will be missed. But your example will surely live on. And for that, I'm, as I suspect many others, are doubly grateful. Thank you, as well to the Judicial Nominating Commission. Once again, home run. Thank you for, as the Chief Justice mentioned, for the breadth and the depth and your thoughtfulness and thoroughness in putting forth recommendations that caused me to take sometimes more time than some would like. But ultimately, thank you for presenting me with the recommendation of then Judge Molter for further consideration. Every one of, as the Chief Justice mentioned, every one of the 79 selections that I have made to date, been charged to do so, increases my confidence, increases my pride, increases my optimism about this court's, all of our court's commitment to fairness, as I mentioned earlier, and to justice and to the rule of law. And none has contributed to that feeling more so than Indiana's 111th Justice. Justice Molter, congratulations as you ceremonially take your rightful place on this high court. I say ceremonially because, as was alluded to earlier, in true Derek Molter fashion, he months ago rolled up his sleeves and got to work long before being robed. And that's, of course, no surprise to anyone who has ever walked a few steps with Justice Molter. In fact, you might say that's what Hank called a family tradition. Growing up on the farm, so to speak, driving a tractor, baling hay, cleaning out those horse stalls, I remember you mentioning, learning all those glamorous life lessons and gaining that priceless Newton County work ethic along the way. I hope, as I know his parents, I hope his teachers, if there are any here today or watching, I hope his teachers from a very early age, all the way through his professors at Indiana University's Maurer School of Law, where, of course, he graduated in the top 3% of his class, take some pride in this accomplishment in helping shape one of Indiana's keenest legal minds. And lastly, as I've stated before, what I personally respect so much is his quintessential Hoosier way about him. This rare combination of being innovative and collaborative, irreproachable character, and yet remains humble. All qualities that will serve him well with his colleagues on the Supreme Court and the cases that make their way through these doors seeking a final word. Justice Molter, this is a big job that you now have assumed. But I think, Your Honor, you would agree, it remains lower than that of being a husband and father. And so Michael and Mallory and Samuel and Katie, if it pleases the court, may I now introduce another proud father, his father, to administer the oath, Judge Daniel Molter.
I, Derek R. Molter,
I, Derek R. Molter,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge my duties as a Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court
discharge my duties as a Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court
to the best of my skill and ability.
to the best of my skill and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Can Katie and the kids join him? I want to thank Governor Holcomb again and Justice Molter's dad, a longtime friend of mine, Judge Daniel Molter. Now we will have the robing by Katie and the 3 Molter children. We will now go into recess and return as a 5-member court with our new colleague. And I've asked Justice David, your nameplate was up here for a long period of time, if you would do us the honors of putting Justice Molter's nameplate in while we recess. Justice Goff, I'm going to let you do the honors of introducing our newest justice.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time, then let me introduce my good friend, Justice Derek Molter.
invite you to make remarks.
So as Sheriff Dowdell gavelled us into recess, my son Samuel leaned over and said, "Recess?" I hadn't thought that part of the script through. Thank you, Chief Justice Rush and my colleagues. This is the second time I've been in this room for the robing ceremony of an Indiana Supreme Court justice. The first time was for Justice Slaughter's robing ceremony in 2016. That was a point in my career when I was starting to focus much more on appellate work, and when I saw the press release announcing the ceremony, I thought I might get some useful insight by attending. The ceremony did not disappoint, but the first insight I gained was when I arrived early and learned that to attend these ceremonies, you are supposed to have an invitation. I had never even met Justice Slaughter, and I mistakenly assumed that these ceremonies worked the way they did in Newton County and were open to the public. Fortunately, Mary Larimore, then a senior partner at Ice Miller, who knows everyone and is here today, spared me from embarrassment by talking to Sarah Kidwell, who did a lot of the work for today's ceremony as well, and they were able to get me in the room. So today, let me begin by saying to any uninvited guests who Sarah let in this time, welcome. It's a proud tradition you continue. And to everyone else here and over in the Senate, thank you for honoring me and my family with your presence, and thank you for the role you have played in my life, either in helping me reach this point in my career or in helping me advance the work of Indiana's judiciary. Governor Holcomb, it was an honor just to meet you through the application process with the Court of Appeals, and I never could have imagined how much fun it would be getting to know you and your entire team through those multiple rounds of interviews, first with the Court of Appeals and now the Supreme Court. I'm honored that you've placed your trust in me again, and I am thankful for your kind remarks today and how gracious you've been to my family as we've celebrated each of these roles. Now, it is customary to begin these remarks with a word of thanks to the Judicial Nominating Commission, but my appointment means they've had to fill the same Court of Appeals seat twice in a year, so I think I'm the first justice in history who has to begin with an apology to the JNC. I am sorry for that extra work, and few realize just how onerous that burden is, but please know that I'm deeply grateful for your work and the trust you've placed in me, and also know that the gratitude for your service is broadly shared throughout our judiciary. I'm also grateful to my fellow finalists for this position, Grant County's Judge Dana Kenworthy and the Supreme Court's own Justin Faulkner, the Chief Administrative Officer. One of the great joys of this job has been getting to know both of them better. Judge Kenworthy exemplifies the best of our trial bench, and I'm constantly awestruck by our court's innovation through projects and teams that Justin oversees. It is easy to see why our court has so many dedicated team members eager to serve under Justin's leadership. That team has also been exceedingly gracious throughout my transition and making the transition easier, including by organizing the ceremony here today. As I've reflected on arriving at this moment today, I've come to realize there's an unbroken pattern in my career. This is my 5th job since law school, and with each leading up to this point, I pursued the position because of the esteemed reputation of the people with whom I would be working. And each time I left the position, I held those people in even higher esteem, and they've continued to be supportive of my aspirations ever since. That started with my first job out of law school as a law clerk for Judge Teresa Springman, a trailblazing U.S. District Court judge for the Northern District of Indiana, who remains not only one of my best role models as a judge, but also as a spouse and a parent. I'm honored that she is with me here today along with my 2 co-clerks from that time, Macy Doden and John Drake. I cannot imagine a better way to start a legal career, and what I learned from all 3 of them still guides me in my work today. After my clerkship, I was an associate at Arnold & Porter in Washington, D.C., and it means a great deal to me that many of my colleagues from that time have been so supportive of my efforts, first to join the Court of Appeals and now to join the Supreme Court. I'm also grateful to be joined today by many friends who are part of my best memories of time spent in Washington. After Arnold & Porter, fate redirected me to Ice Miller, and I'm sure glad that it did. My time there was quite rewarding, although not always conventional. Tom Mixdorf likes to remind people that I was especially reserved my first year as I tried to figure out the lay of the land. But in my defense, the first piece of constructive criticism I received at Ice Miller was from Drew Myroff, who is here today, and who actually put in my first annual associate review that he initially had serious concerns about my ability to relate to clients because I had never seen any of the Star Wars movies. And then he complimented my willingness to learn, as evidenced by the fact that I went home and watched them all at his suggestion. I'm glad to be joined today by so many old friends from Ice Miller, and it is a wonderful reminder of my time there, that every time I walk into our court's robing and conference rooms, I see a picture of Ice Miller partner Myra Selby, who appropriately is one of the very few former justices we honor by hanging her picture in those rooms where we do our most important work. Now, just as much as anyone else, and I've heard many of you in here, I love a good joke about how short my time was on the Court of Appeals. Just a few weeks ago, I attended an Indianapolis Legal Aid Society roast of Kevin Farrell, and one of Kevin's roasters interrupted and said, "Justice Molter, we just received a note from the Court of Appeals. They say your furniture has arrived." But the truth is, I was with the Court of Appeals plenty long enough to forge lasting friendships and to deepen the enormous respect that had led me to join that court in the first place. Chief Judge Bradford, you are a great example of how easy it is and why it's so easy to like and respect your court, and I thank you for your kind remarks today. I'm also proud of the work my colleagues and I did on the Court of Appeals in the hundreds of cases I was a part of deciding, and it was fulfilling to travel with all of you throughout the state for traveling oral arguments and all the other projects we worked on together on behalf of our judiciary. So to my friends from the Court of Appeals, and especially my law clerks, Angie Yoon and Kent Zepik, thank you for making my time on the Court of Appeals such a wonderful experience. And just as when I joined the Court of Appeals, I'm now joining a group of people on the Supreme Court who I respect greatly and who have the institution at a high point. And I realize my role is simply to contribute to sustaining the momentum. That is in no small part due to the efforts of my predecessor, Justice Stephen David. Justice David has an unmatched record of public service at the highest levels. 28 years of stellar military service, including as Chief Defense Counsel in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. 15 years as a trial court judge in Boone County. 12 years as a justice on our court, and that is just scratching the surface. He is uniquely beloved throughout the state for his deep involvement in countless projects to advance the profession and the rule of law. And as someone who had to argue in front of Justice David, I especially appreciated that while his questions were difficult, they were fair, and he always had the friendliest disposition when he asked them. Justice David, I know everyone in here joins me in thanking you for all you've done for the state of Indiana and for our nation. I've also appreciated all of the work of Justice David's judicial assistant, Sandy Knox, in helping my transition to the court and in organizing this ceremony. And I'm so grateful that Justice David's law clerk, Colleen Morrison, was willing to continue with the court as a law clerk in my chambers. Colleen, along with my other law clerk, Ronnie Amani, and my judicial assistant, Bree Stinn, make every day in chambers a joy. Before today, the only other Supreme Court robing ceremony since Justice Slaughter's was Justice Gough's. I did not attend that ceremony because I wasn't invited, and I learned the rules. But I have watched that live stream, the live stream of that ceremony, and it struck me that both Justices Slaughter and Gough remarked of the complete transition from the court when it was led by Chief Justice Randall Shepard. All of my colleagues up here have talked about how daunting it was to follow those legendary justices who served alongside Chief Justice Shepard, and I'm honored that, as you heard here earlier today, so many of them are with us today. But it occurs to me that I'm unique in our courts in that I'm the first appellate judge whose time practicing in Indiana and on the bench has mostly been during the era when the court has been remade under the leadership of Chief Justice Loretta Rush. It is no less daunting to join the members of this court. My four colleagues up here have over 125 years of legal experience between them. That was not a joke about Justice Slaughter's birthday. They are here because all of them had statewide reputations as excellent lawyers and judges, and all were thought leaders in their chosen areas of the law and government service. They continue to show innovative leadership. Just a couple of weeks ago, they led a mental health summit with over 1,000 attendees from all branches and levels of government throughout the state. They even have the court in the position where other states look to us now for leadership. Just one example of that is that the Chief Justices of Supreme Courts around the country have chosen our own Chief Justice Rush to serve as the president of the National Conference of Chief Justices. I feel as though I'm sprinting to leap onto a train that is already at full speed. But thankfully, all of my colleagues up here have extended a hand to help me aboard. I am grateful to all of you for how kind you've been to me and my family as we've adjusted to this new role, and I'm grateful for all the lunches together and the office stop-bys as you help me find my way. I'll do my best to contribute to what you all have already helped build. That is a court that appreciates and supports the role of its many employees as we work together to support our Court of Appeals and our trial courts throughout all 92 counties. Mindful that while the Supreme Court handles hundreds of cases a year, our Court of Appeals handles thousands of cases a year, and our trial courts handle millions of cases a year. It is also a court that neither shies away from its sometimes difficult obligation to uphold our Constitution's protections, nor that oversteps its bounds, always understanding its limited role in a divided government. What a tribute to that tradition that we are joined today by so many leaders from the other branches of our state government and our friends in the federal government. I will conclude with a few words about my family. This is a special day for us, and I'm glad so many of you have joined me here. That includes my wife Katie's family, the McCaulays, many of whom did a masterful job in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. In the McCauley family, I am probably most appreciated for what I have always referred to as a self-imposed in-law rule, which is that I understand my role as an in-law is to be seen and not heard. I really fell short today, but tomorrow we will return to normal. In a moment, my grandfather, William Restall, will be unveiling my court photograph on the wall, joined by his two daughters, my mother and my Aunt Linda Connor. It is remarkable to think that while he will be unveiling my photograph as the 111th Justice, he has lived through the tenure of over 50 of those justices who have served before me. I am blessed by the role he has played in my life leading up to today. For the Molters, this is the third time that an Indiana governor has looked to our family for service to the law. Governor McNutt appointed Agnes Molter as the first woman to serve as a prosecutor in Indiana in 1933. Governor Orr appointed my father to serve as the judge of the Newton Superior Court in 1986. And Governor Holcomb has now honored our family once again. Many of the Molters here today are no doubt thinking of my grandfather, Samuel Molter, in whose law office I used to spend every Thursday as a child. That is just part of why it is so meaningful to me that the governor was kind enough to invite my parents to administer the oath today. Also, because this week happens to be the 71st birthday for both of them, and I forgot to get them a card. Justice Slaughter, don't hold your breath either. Thanks for bailing me out, Governor. I've talked about how a through line in my career is joining teams at their high point. My father, with my mother's support, joined the Newton Superior Court at its low point. His predecessor was removed from the bench after numerous criminal convictions. At my father's investiture ceremony, he committed that he would again make the people of Newton County proud and of the court and its public officials. Looking back over the 35 years that followed, I think he, with my mother by his side, has fulfilled that commitment. The busload of people here today from Newton County and Jasper County, and all those at home watching the live stream are a testament to the pride my parents have restored. And last, there's the family that I go home to every night. My wife, Katie, is a big part of today. Katie, I hope you know how much I love you, appreciate you, and respect you, and how I wouldn't be here today without you. And if you don't know that, please watch the video of my last robing ceremony. I cannot improve upon those remarks. Michael, Samuel, and Mallory, I am proud of each of you, and everything in my life is better because you are part of it. The chief has forced my hand. I wasn't going to tell the story about chicken night, but she's already alluded to it, so now I feel duty-bound to share it with you. Chicken night is a wonderful tradition of this court that brings together the current justices, their broader teams, former justices, their former law clerks, and others throughout the court, and we have a nice dinner and reception right outside this courtroom. And I was quite excited. We get to bring our families, but I was a little nervous. I'm new to the job, and I would like to make a good first impression. So I gave all of my children the speech that we parents give them, similar to the one they heard about an hour ago, about the importance of good behavior and respecting the environment and how this is a work function. And much to my surprise, they were behaving beautifully as the night went on, until you'll notice when you leave this courtroom, there are these beautiful wooden telephone booths, and all of a sudden I heard a shrieking coming from one of the booths, and of course it was one of my children yelling. Now, consistent with our juvenile delinquency laws, I will not give you the name of which child that was. But I impatiently rushed over and demanded to know what on earth they were thinking. They pointed at the Chief Justice, and they said, "She said these phone booths are soundproof, but she thought maybe I could yell out enough to get some soundproof." I learned a lesson about my role here. Our convention as the junior justice, I get to speak first, but now I appreciate that I don't get to speak last, and my voice is certainly not the most influential, even with my own family. It has been a wonderful journey from crashing a robing ceremony to headlining one. Again, thank you all for joining me today, and I look forward to visiting with you during our reception at the conclusion of this ceremony outside the courtroom.
We have one final step left, and let's just take a minute and look around this room. There's a lot of history. We have 111 justices. We have only 2 portraits that are missing, but they all tell a story. I particularly like Justice Leonard Hackney back there. In 1893, he was a new justice on the court, about the age of Derek, and he wrote the opinion, his very first opinion, and that opinion said women could be part of the bar. So I always give my hats off to Leonard Hackney. We've had justices that have served on the Nuremberg trials. We have justices that both before and after their time went on to great heights. But this room is filled, it's filled with history. And the 5 of us have this huge sense every time we walk in here, the mantle that we have and how important our role is as the court of last resort here in Indiana. So in talking about the portraits, I would like to, at this time, invite Justice Molter's grandfather, William Renstall, to please come forward, pull the string, so we can see the portrait of the 111th Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court and family members. Andy's smiling, which is always a good thing in the picture. Well, Justice Molter, on behalf of your colleagues on the industry report, we're so happy to have you here. He did hit the ground running. In the last 2 months, he has voted on first, because it's tradition in our court, the newest justice votes first, on 118 cases. He's heard many oral arguments. We've had oral arguments on the road. He has a very much put-me-in coach mentality. He's helping with the commercial courts, the innovation initiative. He's been over, we have off-site offices. We have about 240 employees. A lot of days he's over at the Capitol Center meeting with those employees. So we just couldn't ask for more in a justice, and thank you for jumping in, and we look forward to many years of your fine work on this court. So congratulations, Justice Molter, and please accept our thanks for stepping up and doing this, taking this position, and then hitting the ground as hard as you've been hitting with regard to bringing all your talents to this office. So with that being said, this oral argument, I'm so used to saying that.
Please affirm.
I see a lot of you appellate practitioners out there, so you know what that is. It's over at that point. This adjourns this ceremony for Derek Molter, Sheriff Dowdell.
All right.